Hello everybody, cycling's back. It's wonderful to be back, and a very warm welcome to the INEOS eRace here on Zwift Live. It's a unique event today on a very unique course. We'll see the whole Team INEOS squad battling it out here in a winner-takes-all race at the top of Alpe du Zwift. Never before has a full World Tour squad taken to the roads of Watopia for a race like this, and for the very first time in Zwift racing history, we're going all the way to top of the Alpe to a summit finish. Well, I'm Rob Hatch, and sitting a socially distanced 250 kilometres away from me is a man who knows everything there is to know about elite level racing in Zwift. It's Mr. Matt Stevens.
Thank you very much indeed, Rob. Yeah, as you said, this is something very, very special indeed. We've never had a race on Zwift up the Alpe du Zwift. It's the hardest climb in the whole of Zwift, and we've got the world's best team here with 4 Grand Tour winners amongst their number, 30 riders divided up into 6 teams, which we'll go through in a minute. It's going to be an interesting, quite marvellous spectacle. It's going to be a first in many, many ways, Rob, and I cannot wait to see how this pans out. It's going to be great.
Well, today's race is a very interesting one, as you said. It's the best stage race team racing Zwift's hardest climb. We're in Watopia, the virtual world, racing the Tour of Fire and Ice race, where we will start on the volcano and head up through the jungle to the Alpe itself. It's 27.9 kilometres long, just under 1,200 metres of climbing to the top. And Matt, I think we're talking, the climb itself is very, very difficult. We know it's modelled on Alpe d'Huez. We know that Team INEOS have history there with their riders, the likes of Geraint Thomas and Chris Froome, and it's a very, very difficult gradient.
It is. It's metre for metre. I mean, I've ridden both Alpe d'Huez and the Alpe du Zwift a number of occasions. The last of which we both did yesterday. We did the recon with Team INEOS, but it is, apart from some of the landmarks, pretty much metre for metre exactly the same climb, the same amount of switchbacks, the same average gradient, the same distance. It is an average of 8.5% over 12.24 kilometres, which is 7.6 miles. It is an iconic climb, not only in the real world but here on Zwift as well, and it's going to be a really stern test for these riders. But as you said, it is a climb they know quite well.
Well, here's a look at Geraint Thomas, who's just warming up. You can see he's in full INEOS race kit. He's racing with a Pinarello Dogma F12. In Zwift, they're going to have Shimano C60 wheels on. Smiling back for now is Geraint Thomas, but will he be smiling at the top after a very difficult race? Okay, yeah, Matt, of course, racing in Zwift is ever so slightly different to racing on the road. Tell us why.
Yeah, it's the gamification of Zwift. I mean, it is a social platform. It's a fitness platform, but it's built out of computer gaming as well. And of course, the gamification of Zwift is key. There are these 5 crucial power-ups that the riders get given randomly at certain points out on the route, which gives them certain benefits that they have to use tactically. The first of which is the aero power-up at the top there, which, as it said, makes you more aero for 15 seconds. A great one for a bunch sprinter if you want to attack. The drafting basically increases your draft effect by 50 seconds. A good one if you're suffering in a group and want to increase the benefit of the draft when you're sat on the wheel. The breakaway burrito, one of my favorite ones, is a good one if you want to attack, so no rider can get your wheel. So it makes you undraftable for 10 seconds. Lightweight, Rob, I think is the one that all of the riders are going to want and going to need on this particular finish, on this climb, which reduces your weight by 9.5 kilograms. That's for 15 seconds, should I say, which increases your power to weight ratio. And the final one is my favorite, the invisibility power up. It makes you invisible for 10 seconds, Rob, so you can do a really cheeky stealth attack. The riders can't see you.
Well, they won't be able to see each other. They're all in different places around the world, and it's probably a good moment to have a look at the team. It is, of course, the same squad, 30 riders going head-to-head, and they're divided into 6 teams. Team 1, well, they want to be known as the A team, we've been told, and it is, of course, Dylan van Baarle who's going to be the leader. He's got Deluxe Domestique in the shape of Chris Froome, the 4-time Tour de France winner. Seba Senao is in Colombia. André Amador riding from Amadora. And, of course, Pipo Ganna, all led by Servas Knaven. So, Team 2 is Team Gaba. They're all ready and about to get underway. They are led by Michal Kwiatkowski. The riders, as you can see, just rolling out now from the town centre in Watopia. And they'll be heading up to the volcano in just a minute. This is the neutral zone for the moment. You can see Gianni Moscon. He's part of Team 2. The Italian rider riding for that team led by Gabarash. There's Owain Dool, who's the man who's the only race winner on the road so far of this cut short season with the coronavirus crisis. Dool won a stage down in France. He also has Ian Stannard in his team, Leonardo Basso, and it is the former world champion Michał Kwiatkowski who is leading Team 2, known as GABA. So to Los Cafeteros, they'll be wearing the green number, and of course the coffee riders, because they've got 3 Colombian stars: Egan Bernal, Ivan Sosa, Brandon Rivera. Bernal was the first ever Colombian winner of the Tour de France last year. They helped out Chris Lawless in the Isle of Man and Cameron Worth, who is riding down on continental Europe. Xavi Sandio there, DS. In DS duties for Team 4's Brett Lancaster, the Australian. And this is Zwift's occurring. Geraint Thomas is the leader. Luke Rowe, the road captain. Rowan Dennis, a superb domestique. Of course, he's a new signing for the team, the world time trial champion. With Salvatore Puccio, the Italian, and Christian Knees, 2 of the very, very best rollers in the world. So to Team 5, they'll be wearing the grey numbers. They are known as the Zurek team. Michał Gołasz, the Polish rider, has named that. It's apparently a Polish delicatessen. Ollie Cookson is the DS, with Narvaez from Ecuador, Castroviejo from Spain, Geoghegan Hart, the British rider, all supporting Eddie Dunbar, the Irish leader. And the 6th and final team is from Russia with love. Team 6 wearing the INEOS burgundy colours, with Pavel Sivakov, the leader, the 22-year-old Russian who, remember, was born in Italy and brought up in France. They have Carlos Rodriguez, Ben Swift, the British champion, who's in a slightly different jersey given the fact that he has those British stripes around him, with Ethan Hayter, the British rider, and Richard Carapaz, the winner of the Giro d'Italia, all led by Matteo Tosato. So then, back to the race. The racing is looking like it's getting underway, Matt Stevens, and a couple of riders, it seems, off the front.
Yeah, a little bit of attack there early on. It looks like 2 riders have gone off the front here, and it's worth just dwelling briefly on this style of racing we've got here, Rob. Many of you will be familiar with e-racing on Zwift. Many of you won't be, but generally the races that we have on Zwift are between 20 and 30 minutes long, so quite an intense effort. And this ride today, although it's 27 Ks, obviously half of it is up a mountain. So it's going to be a far longer, drawn-out effort and may actually pan out more like a traditional road event. We'll have to see. This is the first of its kind. But as you said, Rob, 2 riders just going clear here, still 25 kilometres to go. And it'll be about 15 kilometres of rolling terrain through the volcano before we hit the bottom of the climb. But riders, I think, just using this opportunity as we head through the centre of this volcano, just to bed themselves in and make sure they're fresh and ready for that finishing climb. And the interesting thing for me, Rob, is going to be how they ride against each other. They've all got a DS. They've all got their own team plan. They've all got a team leader. It's just going to be interesting to see how this rolls out and how they race against each other, which we've never seen before.
Well, I'm just looking at this group here, Matt, with 25.5 kilometres to go. We've seen 2 riders off at the front. One man who's not in this group is Ben Swift, the British champion. So I have a feeling he might have put in one of the first digs there. Alongside him, I'm hearing it may well be Chris Lawless, but we'll have to get a double take on that. With 2.8 kilometres ridden, 4 minutes, up the road. And you can see, I think that's one of the power-ups being used, Matt.
It is. It's the burrito that makes this rider undraftable for 15 seconds. And it is Rivera who has gone clear. That's a bit of a surprise. Good little move by the Neo Pro, using that power up early on. Now, just to explain a little bit about when these riders get the power ups, we understand on this particular course, as we look at Brandon Rivera there, just tapping out 300 watts. The power ups are on the start line. They get one through the finishing banner in the volcano, and then, Rob, there are 3 random power-ups at undisclosed points on the final climb. So how each rider uses those power-ups is going to be absolutely crucial and could actually make a difference between who wins and who loses this race.
Plenty of ride-ons being given to the riders in the bunch there, as Rivera not really getting too much of a distance on the wheel of another of the riders further up. It's been a pretty quick start, this, Matt, as we're going through the volcano part of the world. And from here, we will then head off underwater, I believe.
Yeah, underwater, then through the jungle for a bit. It is a cracking course as we look at Geraint Thomas. Well, he stripped his top off already, bearing that chest. First time we've seen that. We normally see him in his Castelli top, but no, the smiling face of Geraint Thomas. And it is worth mentioning as we see that wonderful picture-in-picture, looking at his stats there. That's his wattage on the left-hand side. RPM, that's how many pedal revolutions per minute. He's not showing us his heart rate, but his average speed there, Rob, was 49 kilometers an hour. But to raise money for charity, he is going to, for I believe the NHS, he's going to do 3 back-to-back 12-hour rides on Zwift over the next 3 days. So fair play to him.
Yes, 12-hour shifts. For those of you watching around the world, the NHS is the British National Health Service. And in light of what's going on at the minute, he's going to be riding from 7:30 each morning for 3 mornings, 12 continuous hours in his garage. And I think you can watch him on Zwift and on a webcam as well. So he's been getting that webcam set up, and today's a good test for it as we have a look at Cameron Worth. Experience. He was a former bike rider, actually, the Australian. He did quit professional cycling, but he's been into triathlon, and he's come back to it this year as another move goes off the front. And Matt, they're going here, putting digs in on what is a real difficult uphill terrain, slightly off-road here too.
Yeah, there are, on this particular section, there are actually gravel sections. We're actually having on Zwift now more and more gravel trails. You can actually pick your bike. So the riders will actually feel through the bike, the resistance on their home trainers. They will feel as if they're actually riding through gravel. Obviously not so much the bumpiness of the gravel itself, but the added resistance. So this is going to be pretty hard. There's a couple of little rolling climbs, which are going to mean the riders are going to have to lean on to the power a little bit. This is a tough little section. This is called the Italian Villas, as they're just going to be rolling through there now. But as you said, Cameron Worth, a rider who rode for the Cannondale squad back up until 2014, and then has been participating primarily in triathlons and has been re-signed at the end of January this year. But a really reliable workhorse for the squad, looking good at the moment.
Yeah, replacement for Vasil Kirienka, who was unfortunately forced to retire at the start of the year. Now, here we go, another move. It is a top rider against the clock. It's Filippo Ganna. We can see him on screen, and look at the power he's putting out there. Well above 500 watts. And he's used to this, Matt, as the world individual pursuit champion on the track.
Yeah, I mean, he is one of the fastest men on the planet. He's 4 times individual pursuit champion, and he broke the record, Rob, as you alluded to. He's completed that 4,000 meters, the world record time, 4.01934, which is extraordinary. He's still only 23 years of age, but, consummate time trialist. And this move is looking good, but 500 watts with still 22 kilometers to go. Well, it's definitely forced to split, and it looks like that breakaway is going clear.
It looks as though a little move is able to go clear. Maybe a little bit of sitting up or relative sitting up behind after 8 minutes. Looks as though we've been racing almost 6 kilometres to go. And just over 22 kilometres still remain. Remember, it's all about the last 10 Ks or so. And that race up the hill. And I think, Matt, it looks as though they're out of sight.
Yeah, they definitely moved clear here. And I'm just, if we get back to the head of the race, I'm just wondering exactly what the composition is. Remember, there's the
here we go. There we go, Matt. It is Lawless, Rowe, Ganna and Swift. It's a 4-man break, and we have one chaser at 12 seconds, who is Ian Stannard. And you can just see there, Ethan Hayter, well, he is in the bunch, and I think that's a more relaxed look, just 245 watts. You can see they're sitting up a little bit and giving this group about half a minute now.
Yeah, Ethan Hayter, new signing for Team INEOS, only 21 years of age, a double stage winner of the Tour de l'Avenir, and a double stage winner in the Baby Giro d'Italia as well, a really classy rider. But one thing it is worth mentioning, if you are tuning in for the very first time and watching this race, is that the riders do get the benefit when they're sat on the wheel of drafting. It's not exactly like the real world, but there's a real benefit. And look at Tao Geoghegan Hart here. He's sat in the wheels, Rob, texting us. I wonder who he's texting. Is he texting his the rest of the team to tell him what's going on? Very, very interesting.
I'll tell you what, Matt. Well, he's texting away. It's probably a good time for us, while the breakaway has just gone, to go and have a look and see what Chris Froome told Ola Chenouille at the start of the day.
Great stuff.
So, Chris, tell me, where are you in the world, and how's it all going for you at the moment?
I'm down in the south of France at the moment, on lockdown, like everyone else. But it's going well. It's going well. I mean, staying really busy, obviously, with the kids every day, and doing as much training as I can on the turbo trainer, and a lot of gym work as well. But we're all driving each other mental, but getting through it.
The same for all of us, Chris. I've got to ask you, how's the recovery going?
The recovery is going really well. I'd go as far as saying it's pretty much complete. I mean, I am still doing some exercises off the bike just to strengthen that right side, which was injured. But I'm back into normal training loads again, and that's going really well.
So, Chris, it's going to be a busy day for you today, really, isn't it? The group ride, first of all, though, what are you most looking forward to with that?
I think it's just a great opportunity for us riders to be able to interact with our fans. I mean, obviously at the moment we're not out there racing, we're not being interviewed, we're not really in the public eye. I mean, I guess everyone's on lockdown at the moment, so it's a great opportunity for us and our fans to be able to get out and do a ride together, which we would never normally get the opportunity to do.
And it looks like you guys used a meetup on Zwift to recon the Alp de Zwift yesterday. How helpful was that?
That was good yesterday. I mean, I'd never been up Alp de Zwift before, and it's not too far off Alp d'Huez as far as I see. So it's going to be a pretty solid race later.
How does it compare to Alp d'Huez then?
Yeah, we were just going easy yesterday, so I think we'll see how it goes in the race, but I imagine it's going to feel like going flat out from the bottom to the top of Alp d'Huez.
Chris, you're being a bit cagey there. What can you tell us about your form? What kind of legs do you have for this race later?
Yeah. I mean, I'm feeling good. Training's been going really well, so we'll see how it goes on the climb later on today.
Thank you, Chris. This is very old, doing it this way. It could be the future.
Cheers. Group hug.
Thanks for everything. Oh, group hug. Social distancing, virtual group hug.
Well, there's a bit of social distancing going on out there on the road at the moment. We have 5 riders up the road. They are Lawless, Zwift, Rowe, Ganna and Stannard. 5 of the 6 teams represented. It seems that the only team not represented is Team 5, Team Zurich. That's being led by Eddie Dunbar, and I think they are the ones having to do the chasing here, Matt.
Yeah, well, it's Eddie Dunbar's team, as you said, Team Zurich there. They have missed out. I mean, that means you'd imagine if they want to bring this back, that they have to start working together. The other teams are going to look to them to do the chasing, you'd have thought. So Eddie Dunbar, his teammates, Theo Gegenhardt, Jonathan Castro-Viejo, Jonathan Narvaez, and Mikel Golas, who I believe named the team. Ollie Cookson is their DS. They need to get together. They've got a 16-second lead at the moment. Looks like Lawless has just drifted off the front of that little group out in front. But when you look at the composition of this squad and you look at the terrain, Rob, that is still to come, the composition is more of a Eurosport type. It's your classic specialist. Lawless, of course, the winner of the Tour of Yorkshire last year. Ben Swift, current British road champion. Stannard, of course, double winner of Het Nieuwsblad. Luke Rowe, fifth, of course, a couple of years back in the Tour of Flanders. And Ganna, one of the biggest rulers. You wonder if they could survive on the climb itself. But what it has done is put the pressure on Dunbar's team. They need to chase.
If you look in the top right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the terrain to come, the gradient. For those of you getting too excited maybe a little early on and thinking that we're on the Alpe d'Huez already, hold your horses, because we've 18.9 kilometers to go. This is the first little rise away from our opening landmass where we had the Italian villas there. And we're about to head up now and head towards the jungle in a moment. And these are the riders who are up ahead, the 5 riders. We're looking at Filippo Ganna on screen there, 350 watts away. And they've got a lead of 22 seconds over the rest of the bunch. And as we called there, it is Dunbar's team that's doing the work. You can see in 6th, 7th and 8th place, Goash, Rivera and Dunbar. And they're the ones alternating the pace, trying to pull this back.
Yeah, they certainly
There's
are.
Ben Swift, 383 watts. Pardon me, Matt, but we're getting a look at the British champion in his pain cave.
Yeah, he's looking good. All the jerseys of the various years of Team Sky. He was one of the riders that joined Team Sky almost from its inception. Back had a couple of years with the UCI, but is now back in the fold and rewarded that trust with the win in the National Road Championship for a very, very classy rider indeed. Does a lot of miles on Zwift, knows the platform very, very well as you look at the jersey that he's in. It is worth on the jerseys, because
it seems as though everybody's down on the internet down in London and getting in the way with Matt. Matt, are you back with us?
Can you hear me?
Ah, there you go. I think
Yeah,
everybody was logging on at once. Bank holiday, and they must have all been logging on to watch this. Sorry about that, but you're back with us.
no worries. I was just explaining that Castelli, who are the clothing sponsor of Team INEOS, have designed a special race kit just for this event. There's a special hands-on logo, and it's a project to support the COVID-19 relief. So special jerseys designed for Castelli just for this very race. If you take a close look, there's a lot of detail that goes into these avatars. A lot of riders sporting quite a bit of facial hair and some funky shades.
They can design their own look, but we're going to obviously see pictures of them in their own garages, front rooms, terraces, wherever they are and around the world. And there's some quite exotic locations. Egan Bernal is, of course, up there at altitude in Colombia. We've got a few riders in Andorra. We've got riders in the United Kingdom as well. And there's 28 seconds of a lead at the moment. 17.7 kilometres to go. Still going uphill here. You see the road surface not amazing. And that all counts, doesn't it, Matt, on Zwift as well? Because depending on the type of turbo trainer these guys are using, they can feel the road beneath them.
Yeah, they can. There are some turbo trainers that actually resonate depending on the model that you've got. But we know that Team INEOS all use the same trainer. They all use Wahoo trainers. So there will be a consistency on the trainers. So everybody will have exactly the same kind of feedback on with the trainer in relation to the way the road rises, the road falls, and whether they're riding on boardwalks, whether they're riding on gravel, whether they're riding on cobbles. So there's a real kind of real world feel to riding on these trainers these days, and as I say, standardized across the board for these riders. And just another quick note, we mentioned ride-ons, these little floating thumbs above these riders. If anybody's wondering what they are, it's kind of the Zwift equivalent from the Zwift community, the equivalent of a like on Facebook or a like on Instagram or Twitter. The riders can log on, anybody in the Zwift community can log on and give these riders, just to show their appreciation, because we have an enormous community on Zwift now connecting everybody together.
Well, 11.5 kilometres gone.
Egan,
we are now looking at Egan Bernal.
You in the world right now, and how is your training situation?
Now I'm training at home, doing some turbo. So yeah, I think that I'm lucky because I'm in a good place. I am in my home, so I can share some time with my family, and I'm enjoying this time with them. So yeah, I think that it's not too bad for me at the moment.
It looks like you've become quite a fan of Zwift recently as well. Is that right?
Yeah. We will do this race in Sunday. I'm really happy for that because when you just train and at home in doing some turbo, you need to have some fun. So for sure will be something different for us. It will be a really different day.
What can we expect from the race itself from you?
For sure, you don't need to expect too much from me because I will be the leader. But for sure another guy will be I'll be the captain, not the leader.
Yeah, you will be racing at altitude, which is obviously a big advantage for training, not so much for racing. And you'll be racing earlier in the day as well than everyone else. What kind of a difference will that make?
For me, it's perfect. It's the time when I normally train. So yeah, at least I will have advantage. But yeah, for sure for the race, when you need to push in the altitude, you can do too much watts. So yeah, it will be something different. But yeah, I think that the most important is to enjoy it. And I will try to help the guys who will be at the sea level. And yeah, I think that will be something nice. We have not raced from a long time, and for sure we will try to enjoy it and to keep really hard, even more in a normal race, because we have nothing to lose here. So we will try to do our best. We are riding, and we will compete with our friends and our mates. And if you want to see what will happen with Jan and Frumi and G, this is a good opportunity to see, and you can just enjoy this race and just have some fun.
Well, Egan Bernal, the man who won the Tour de France last year, Just taking all the pressure off himself as we look at Ian Stannard, still in the breakaway there. One of 5 riders up the road with Gannat, Zwift, Rowe and Lawless. The gap's gone down to about 23 seconds, and it looks as though the weather might not be turning out to be that good in the virtual world, Matt.
Yeah, it's actually it looks like, not too sure if it's early morning or it's the evening, but the clouds have rolled across the sky. It's quite gloomy within this forest here. You can just see the vines hanging down. Again, this is one of my favourite parts of Watopia. They're on a gravel surface now, just coming through. This is part of they're going through the Aztec ruins very, very shortly. But Rob, a really interesting point there from Egan Bernal, which we should dwell on, is the fact that, as well as this being the first time Team INEOS have faced off each other, the first time we've raced an eRace up the Alpe d'Huez, we've never seen riders compete against each other at different altitudes. Now, there are 10 riders within Team INEOS that are actually riding at altitude, and as we know, if you're riding at altitude, your ability to uptake oxygen is drastically reduced. Some of the riders who normally
here's
live
one of them
altitude,
as well, Matt. You can see Egan Bernal's got his shades on outside.
He has indeed. He's looking very, very cool, isn't he? He's gone for the single under jersey, getting the guns on show, which is always good to see. Luke Rowe picture in picture as well, full guns on show. But no, we've never seen anything like this before. Riders racing head to head at different kind of altitudes. So I think we may see different fluctuations in performance in relation to the guys who are at altitude, especially the Northern Europeans who are currently living at altitude. Rob, it's worth mentioning that.
Well, Bernal back in the bunch at the moment, 25 seconds from the 5-man breakaway you're seeing on the right-hand side of your screen. In terms of what he achieved last year when he was at top shape, there was no excuse. Matt, Egan Bernal, the first Colombian to win the Tour de France. He's 23 now. Here is him winning the Tour last year.
Yeah, I mean, what a performance. Showed such maturity at such a tender age. And he's still only 23 years of age, but it was, a performance of maturity, of strength. Of course, it was a foreshortened tour, but I don't think that will take anything away from him, especially when you look at the lead in to that victory as well. Won Paris-Nice, won the Tour of Swiss en route to victory. There he is on the Champs-Élysées. But he is the rider of the future and delivered. But I think the big surprise was the manner of his delivering that win at such a tender age. But a superb climber and a wonderful ambassador for his home country of Colombia as well.
Okay, Matt. 12.9 kilometers to go. We are getting ever closer to the start of Alpe de Zwift. Ben Swift still in the breakaway. 17 seconds now. And of course, the man we saw crossing the line with Egan Bernal, holding his hand up on the Champs-Élysées last year, was the man who won the Tour de France a year earlier for Team INEOS, what was then Team Sky. It's probably a good time to check in with Geraint Thomas.
So Geraint, how are you doing? How have you been coping?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's obviously strange times. The main thing, not knowing what you're really training for, but I think, the main thing is just trying to mentally stay fresh, really.
You say you haven't had a race focus, but you do have a race, of course, the INEOS Zwift race. How's your form for that? How's your tapering coming along?
Tapering nicely for it. I don't know what the other boy's gonna be like. I've got I think Dylan's a dark horse. I'm gonna be watching him, but it's just going to be tough for sure. I think it's going to be, everyone goes into it a bit sort of like, oh yeah, I'm not too bothered. But as soon as you get going, yeah, it's going to be every man for himself.
That race is going to be on for sure. You're a veteran of Zwift though, Geraint. Surely that gives you something of an advantage, does it?
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to build myself up, but yeah, I know how it all works, and hopefully I can use that to my advantage for sure. But I'm not going to be giving the boys any secrets away.
Well, I was going to ask you actually, give a few secrets away. What are the tactics going to be on the day?
No comment. I'll tell you afterwards.
I know this is serious stuff. You and Egan Bernal are both team leaders. You're the one with the Zwift experience, though. Do you think you'll be running scared a little bit on the day?
Oh, for sure. They're all scared of me. On Zwift or on the road, wherever it is. But no, I think I'm pretty nervous, to be fair. But it should be good fun. Today's
race takes you up a climb that you're very familiar with in the real world. Have you ever tackled Alpe de Zwift? Do you know how it compares with Alpe d'Huez?
I haven't ridden it all before. It's too hard, really. But you know, every time I've done it, it's been brutal. It's just you're either at the front winning or out the back. It's always hard. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's you know, it's nice to see the hairpins again, and you know, obviously it's not the real thing, but it is really realistic. You know, from just you know when you're riding the flat and then when you're going uphill, you know, it does get a lot harder on Zwift, and obviously, you know, 8-10% inclines a lot of the way. So it's definitely a challenge. It's definitely going to have everyone blowing, I think, by the top for sure.
Can't wait to see how Geraint Thomas goes when we come to the meaty part of this climb. You can see now that the road is starting to go uphill, 10% of a gradient here, 11.7 kilometres to go. We are there on Alpe d'Huez, 21 hairpin turns to go, and Ian Stannard alongside Chris Lawless remain at the front, but look, we're seeing gaps, 2 seconds to Swift, 7 seconds to Ganna. Rowe is about to be brought back by the peloton, and behind Gegenhardt, Worth, Sivakov and Froome, it's just 17 seconds now from the front of the race to behind where you can see the rest of the peloton.
Indeed,
Ian
Rob,
Stannard up there at the front, and here he is in his quite impressive gym. A more impressive gym than his internet connection, I think, but Ian Stannard there, obviously working hard. Jersey already off. And I know also watching on from a distance in his office, Dave Brailsford is listening. I think in a moment we could probably go and talk to Dave Brailsford. And here is Dave. Dave, what's it like watching your boys in this virtual world?
Hey, I'm loving this, actually. It's good to see them all working hard. They've been telling me they're working hard and they've been telling me about all of this, but to be able to actually see them and see them racing again is fantastic. I mean, it's great for team morale. And it's just a great thing to be doing at this time. You know, it's a strange time for everybody, and camaraderie and supporting each other and the human factor is very, very important at this moment in time for everybody. And anything can do to connect people together and do things that we can help connect other people together for the fans and everybody else. I think it's a very, very important thing to be doing.
Yeah, a lot of people have been really looking forward to seeing some sort of racing this weekend. We've got it. It looks exciting already. There's a little detail on the new kits that everybody's wearing. It says about something called hands-on. What is this hands-on initiative that you've all been doing?
Well, it's really exciting, actually. So Jim Radcliffe, who's the chairman and owner of INEOS, got in touch and he had this idea. He said, look, we make all the raw materials that go into hand sanitizer. So he set everybody the challenge, and the guys in his company in England, in France, and in Germany, to create a brand new production line to create bottling facility for hand sanitizer, to make hand sanitizer in those 3 countries. Let's make it in 10 days and let's deliver it free of charge into the NHS, to the health workers, to the hospitals in France, to the hospitals in Germany and Belgium, and get it out and support the people who need it the most. And we had a chat and he got in touch and he said, could we as a team take on the distribution, that part of the business, do the hospital side, get it out there, get all the orders, get it all sorted out. And so we took that on with a great appetite, really, because for us to be able to do something for the community, do something in general, do something to support INEOS as well, and such a great project it's a real privilege to be able to get involved, you know.
Brilliant. And to be honest, you're doing a lot for cycling fans as well today. A lot of people tuning in from all around the world, as well as the many more important health initiatives that you've just been talking about as well. You're putting smiles on people's faces. I can see that Ben Swift is going pretty well up that 10% gradient at the minute. He's pulling out a bit of a gap. Just before we leave you to watch the last 10 kilometres, Dave, any predictions?
Well, I think Dylan van Baarle's been training pretty well, I'd say, and maybe Eddie Dunbar. Keep an eye on Eddie. I think the guys at sea level definitely got an advantage over the guys at altitude. That goes without saying. So I think I'd be watching one of those two.
Well, so Dave Brailsford, thanks for joining us, and we might hopefully be able to see you a little later on with a reaction to whoever wins.
Thanks for your support. Thanks, guys.
Brilliant to hear from the team boss there, Matt. And I know you've probably been keeping an eye for us on what's happening on the road, Matt. We've got 10.5 kilometres to go. We're onto the meaty part now. I think the last time I saw we were through, was it hairpin number 19?
Yeah, you can see that on the right. The riders will have that information on screen. I mean, the wonderful thing about the way that on the Zwift platform they've broken down this climb. Blimey, just look at the state of Rowan Dennis's hairdo then. So I just caught a glimpse of what looked like a wild man from Borneo. Rowan Dennis is moving up the field, but with a most interesting hairdo. But no, you are right, Rob. All of these, the riders will get a countdown on the hairpin. They'll also get each hairpin will be timed as well. And it is pretty much an exact replica of outdoors, as we can for the first time see the double world time trial champion kicking out 460 watts, which is hovering, Rob, at around 6 watts per kilogram, just about to catch up Ben Swift, who's had a pretty good history on this climb. Remember a couple of years ago, Rob, when he was second to Peter Kenyak on outdoors in the Dauphiné.
Yes, he was. I think they were running at the other side then, and it was a really, really difficult mountain stage. We talk about the Dauphiné as well. Dave Brailsford mentioned Dylan van Baarle, who is, let's not forget, a mountain stage winner in the Dauphiné, as we're going back to the British champion Swift. And look at that, 594 watts there briefly put out. He's pedaling away. The heart rate's quite high as well, 170s, 180s now. And this is a hellish climb. Like you said earlier on, you and I rode it yesterday. I tell you what, thank goodness for that group ride function on Zwift. I'd have been dropped a long, long way away.
Yeah, definitely. That was quite a good, what Rob's talking about there. There is the ability on Zwift, you can invite some friends or a little group of riders along, but regardless of the power that you're outputting, you all actually stay together at the same speed. And we were both pretty thankful for that, as you said, Rob. So we did do a recon with the rest of the team and a couple of the coaches as well, which was a really good insight into this climb, the way it ebbs and flows, the hairpins. But look at this, there's an attack. Dennis now goes clear. The man with the longest hair in virtual pro cycling, it appears. I had a little chat with him the other day, or yesterday, should I say, and he's very, very keen to try and do a bit of a ride here, and has gone very, very early on. I think the big question is, Rob, can he maintain this sort of output?
Well, Rowan Dennis is also one of the riders riding at altitude. Not as high altitude as the guys over in Colombia, but he is in Andorra, a micro-state between France and Spain. Dennis is there alongside Worth and Swift at the moment. And as we just saw, and we can see on screen again, Rowan Dennis's hair in real life bears no resemblance to that wig he's wearing in the virtual world.
Yeah, I think he's been having a little fun playing around with his avatar there, as you say.
Spinning away, you can see he's pedaling quite a high cadence, 94 revs per minute at the moment. 5.8 watts per kilo is what he's pushing. And the gaps behind are starting to open up. We can see Chris Froome, the 4-time Tour de France winner, move up into 4th place.
Yeah, you can just see Eddie Dunbar.
Alongside Dennis, Cameron Worth is also sitting on his wheel.
Yeah, Cameron Worth still putting out some big power there. 97 RPM, and when you think about Dennis, we think, oh, he had a problematic year last year, but still came back to win the time trial, defend his world time trial championships. But when you look back further to last year, he was second overall in the Tour of Switzerland and lost a lot of weight, rode very well. Only finished, I think it was a handful of seconds behind Egan Bernal. So on his day, we know that Rowan Dennis is a superb climber. Several years ago, won on Mount Baldy as well in the Tour of California. So as well as being really climb well.
I'm looking at Cameron Worth there as well, Matt. He's pushing out a pretty strong wattage. He's an interesting character, Cameron Worth. As I said at the start, he was an ex-pro cyclist for a while, signed to replace Vasil Kirienka at short notice at the start of the year. But I also know that he knows quite a few of the INEOS riders well. And even when he was just in his triathlon career in the last few years, he was training quite a lot with them.
Yeah, and yes, he was. He always stayed in touch with the team and members of the team, and has always quite clearly kept himself in very, very good shape indeed. But it's very unusual, quite unorthodox re-entry back to ride at World Tour level after bowing out way back in 2014. But he's considered such a strong rider, such a likeable fellow, that he's fitted seamlessly back into the team. Has just dropped off the wheel of Rowan Dennis there. Dennis really setting a ferocious pace and still a very long way to go. We estimate, Rob, that the riders would take, just for the climb itself, around 40 to 45 minutes. I think we took about 58 minutes yesterday just to do the 12 Ks. Just shows you how tough, how difficult this climb is. But look, 20 seconds is the gap for our two leaders.
And it's building. You can see that Castroviejo is chasing, one of the best chasers in this type of mountain terrain behind. Eddie Dunbar in fourth at 22 seconds. There's Kwiatkowski and Sivakov moving to the front. Froome is still up there as well, as the seconds also start to build up between the group behind. Interesting to see actually how together the group behind is, and if we've lost any riders from, of course, what was a 30 rider strong peloton at the start of the day. This is Worth, 36 years of age, still sitting on Rowan Dennis' wheel. Worth, who in his professional cycling career has been a very, very solid domestique, but has failed to win a single bike race so far. And we all know that Rowan Dennis has won plenty on the road. He's just opening a little bit of a gap again. Dennis is a two-time world time trial champion.
Yeah, he's certainly a consummate rider against the clock, can really focus. It's riding time trials well. You don't just need a big engine, you need the ability to focus, you need the ability to block everything else out, and you need the ability to suffer. And Rowan Dennis can certainly suffer. And he's actually starting to gap Cameron Worth, a fellow countryman, 2 Aussies out in front at the moment. But Worth, perhaps having to put in some big surges to try and stay in contact, still only 1 second adrift as we head up to another 11% section here. The gradient really starting to bite here, and 25 seconds back to Jonathan Castroviejo and Eddie Dunbar, Sivakov as well, Kwiatkowski. So a lot of the team leaders clearly riding very, very well, and good to see Chris Froome hovering around 7th position.
Well, on Alpe du Zwift in April, you get snow. Interesting to see what the weather's like a bit further up as well, because we had little bits of wind blowing off some of the more exposed hairpins when we were climbing up yesterday. You can see that Dunbar there on one of the easier sections, as we now look at Chris Froome. Chris Froome down in 10th place at 26 seconds, sitting just behind the group on the right-hand side. And of course, Froome, with that awful accident he had at the Dauphiné last year, making his way back. He's now been racing again in the UAE Tour before we had the suspension of life as we know it around the world a few weeks ago. But Froome riding from the south of France. Interesting to see exactly how he goes once we start again, Matt. And Chris Froome, you don't really need to introduce him, do you, really? 4 times Tour de France winner, looking for number 5, 2 times a Vuelta winner, 1 times a Giro winner 2 years ago with that wonderful performance on the Colle delle Finestre. For Chris Froome, it's going to be a big year, isn't it, Matt, when we get racing again?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly what's going to happen throughout this year, but it is a big year. It's a big year for a lot of riders, but especially Chris Froome. But the thing that struck me in that lovely little interview with Orla a few minutes ago was the fact that Chris Froome seemed very relaxed. He's clearly he deals very well with extreme circumstances. He's a family man now. He's very pragmatic, but he was smiling. And I think to go back to what Dave Brailsford was saying as well, this is probably one of the first times that the team have ever had the opportunity to ride together, apart from on a training camp, as a unit. And to see Chris relaxed, riding his bike, clearly he's got a reasonable level of fitness. I mean, look at the numbers that he's putting out at the moment, still hovering between 5 and 6 watts a kilogram, only 30 seconds behind Rowan Dennis, who is flying up this mountain, eating this tarmac up. But no, good to see Froome back on his bike and riding well and putting out some very, very respectable numbers. It would be great to see him back racing on the road very soon.
Yeah, we're looking at Rowan Dennis here now, putting 5 seconds into Cameron Worth. And just while we were talking about Chris Froome there's been a change in the race situation behind Matt. If you look at that graphic on the right-hand side, there is now a 9-second gap between the group, including Froome. It's Castroviejo, Dunbar, Sivakov, Kwiatkowski, Sosa, Froome and Rodriguez, the young Spaniard, with now a 10-second gap from the next group, led by Owain Doull. So we're seeing a selection. Here it is on the screen right now. And Sivakov, as well as Froome, is another man to watch, isn't he?
Yeah, Pavel Sivakov, only 22 years of age, in a real standout rider. Had an amazing season last year. Finished just inside the top 10, 9th, in fact, in the Giro d'Italia. Wore the best young riders jersey for a while, but then took out the Tour of Poland on the overall, and the Tour of the Alps as well. Great climber and a lovely chap as well, but very, very hungry. We know he's in good shape. That's why he's one of the team leaders and looking good at the moment, putting out some big, big numbers. And as I say, we can see the gaps on the right-hand side. And that little lightning bolt just shows that the riders are on smart trainers, all of these riders on Wahoo kickers. And that little stat there, 4.5, that shows how many watts they're actually putting out per kilogram at the moment. And there is Pavel Sivakov with a headband on, looking good.
Pavel Sivakov, of course, a man from the south of France. That's where he grew up. He was born in Italy, in the Veneto region, of course, to 2 former professional cyclists. His parents both Russian international cyclists. That's why he's had a bit of a life around Europe, as we see Dennis now at the front. Man who's been doing really well in his Ironmans since he left professional cycling. Cameron Worth left at 15 seconds behind. Rowan Dennis, though, putting time into everybody else. And wow, what a performance this is turning into. In the meantime, Geraint Thomas is in a group that now has a 20-second delay on the chasing group. So Geraint Thomas at over a minute behind Rowan Dennis.
Yeah, still a long way to go, though. Dennis, yeah, he said he wanted to kind of really try and tear things up today, but Geraint Thomas, this is the thing. We know how Geraint Thomas likes to ride. All of these riders have different attributes, different way of tackling different sorts of terrain. Riders, rouleurs, riders who excel in the high mountains, the punchers like Michał Kwiatkowski. But Geraint Thomas knows, doesn't he, how to win on this climb. Back-to-back stages in the Tour de France that he went on to win overall. If there's anybody who can win on this climb, it is going to be Geraint Thomas.
Well, you're on that subject of back-to-back stages of the Tour de France. It was on this very mountain. Well, Alpe d'Huez in real life, Alpe de Zwift here, of course. And there he is in the yellow jersey at that point. You mentioned it was back-to-back wins. He won the day before, hadn't he, in the Alps? And this was pretty incredible, making his way back onto Steven Kruijswijk, who'd attacked from a long, long way back. And once it got to a group of 5, including Mikel Landa inside the last few kilometres, we also know what happened with Vincenzo Nibali. This was the moment that Geraint Thomas was able to follow Romain Bardet, go away in that group of 5 riders to the finish. And it was a wonderful, wonderful win, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were both up there on the Alp, weren't we, working for Eurosport. It was something very, very special indeed. Just look at the way he's putting the power through the bike there. Noticeably quicker, got that real track speed, powerful. But look, back-to-back wins, but more importantly, winning in the Maillot Jaune on Alpe d'Huez. It doesn't really get much better than that. Or maybe riding to 3 12-hour shifts for charity is almost as good in your garage.
Yes, he is raising money for the British National Health Service this week, is Geraint Thomas. Follow him from Wednesday morning on. You can see him here. He's about at least 30 seconds down on the chasing group. He's over a minute and 13 seconds down from Rowan Dennis at the moment. As we follow Ethan Hayter, another man who's back well in, I was going to say in the peloton, Matt, but it's clearly breaking up quite dramatically behind. There's some serious racing on here, with 6 kilometres still to go. An average gradient now in this particular kilometre for Hayter at between 7 and 10%. And we are watching Geraint Thomas, who is putting out those 329 watts, but who is losing ground, Matt.
He is losing ground just a little bit. You know, that's the thing. I mean, this race here on the Alpe d'Huez is something very, very special, but we're living through extraordinary times. These are extraordinary riders on an extraordinary team. But Geraint Thomas, we don't know the kind of form he's in at the moment. It's very, very difficult for these riders to focus. But one thing's for sure, Rob, these riders, well, although there's a lot of pain going through their legs, it's all about enjoying this experience. Many have never actually raced on Zwift before, let alone raced on the Alpe d'Huez. So it's more of a coming together just to see who's going to get bragging rights within the team. But we must take into account the different altitudes that the riders are at, the different stages in form, and originally the different focuses that they had on the season, and also the amount of racing that these riders have already got in their legs as well. That's really worth sort of factoring in.
We just saw Owain there chasing on. I wonder if he's been past Cumbry Corner yet, the Welsh corner that is always on Alpe d'Huez when they have the race in the Tour de France. Here on Alpe de Zwift, the snow is getting thicker and thicker. You can hear the wind in the background as well, with 5.5 kilometres still to go. And Rowan Dennis continues to pull out time. He has half a minute now on Eddie Dunbar, the Irishman. Pavel Sivakov at 31 seconds, Kwiatkowski, the former world champion, in 4th place at 32, and Cameron Worth has slipped now into 5th place, with Froome, Castroviejo, Sosa, Rodriguez and Van Baarle, the top 10. But Matt, a top 10 separated by a minute and a half. This is serious, serious business now.
Yeah, a lot of damage has been done here. Still a long way to go. We've still got about 10, 12 minutes of racing, which is a long period of time. But Dunbar looking very, very good. Look at the power he's putting out. A very, very light rider indeed. Slight figure, only 57 kilograms. Very, very high power to weight ratio. But Rob, it's worth noting that he's one of the few riders who's actually had a reasonable amount of racing, because Team INEOS did actually stop racing on the 1st of March ahead of several other teams. He was 11th overall in the UAE Tour, and then went in the Tour of Provence chance for 6th overall. So he's come into this race. Okay, we've had 6 weeks without racing, but already had a good bit of form to carry into this period where, well, we didn't really know what the riders were going to do, but clearly some of that residual form is paying off and looking good. It was clearly Dave Brailsford's tip, and he's eating in slowly but surely onto this lead of Dennis, but still 30 seconds. It's impressive from the Australian.
Very impressive indeed, as we see Rowan Dennis. Rowan Dennis, the real Rowan Dennis on the left-hand side, pedalling away to move along the virtual Rowan Dennis on the right-hand side on Alpe de Zwift. He's got his garage door open, that hair shaven off, but of course he's towing those locks around Alpe de Zwift as well. On that 6% gradient, the sort of gradients, Matt, that are made for his engine.
Yeah, I mean, the Alpe de Zwift and Alpe d'Huez, I mean, they're both pretty much the same. That's what the designers in Zwift wanted to do. Name it the Alpe de Zwift, but it's basically meter for meter. Elements of gradient are exactly the same. And as it's not super steep, it is the sort of rhythm that a rider of the stature, of the caliber, and of the weight of Rowan Dennis can really apply the power very, very effectively. Because he's slightly bigger, he can really put down big watts. Look at this. Just 450, 460 watts, which is an incredible power to weight ratio. He's actually stolen a couple more seconds now, but the key to this climb is it's a very even gradient and actually shallows a little bit towards the top, so we can really get into his rhythm. We haven't got that staccato breakup of rhythm at all. It suits Rowan Dennis down to the ground.
Well, the Australian double world time trial champion, the brand new signing for Team INEOS this year, still has around the same gap on Eddie Dunbar, the Irishman, at 32 seconds. But if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, right-hand side with the positions graphic, wow, the rest of the leads are growing, aren't they? It's 1 minute and 5 on Chris Froome now, 1 minute 27 on Sosa and Castroviejo. Kwiatkowski here is further back. He's at 42 seconds. But if you look all the way back down to Dylan van Baarle, Van Baarle is in 10th place. Matt, we're talking 2 minutes. Further back than that, the likes of Bernal. We already questioned the altitude, didn't we? We already talked about Geraint Thomas. And I'm going to ask you this now, Matt. 4.2 kilometres to go. Are the likes of Bernal and Thomas out the game at more than 2 minutes?
I'd never want to say with the likes of Bernal, you don't know how he's riding this climb, but I think what we cannot eliminate, and what we touched on before, is the fact that there's, if you cannot, I mean, there's a real... you come back down to sea level and ride, and that's when you get the benefit after a readjustment period. But the riders at near enough sea level are going to have a big advantage here. So I think 2 minutes, Rob, to answer your question as we head into the snow line. I think it's going to be difficult to cut back this lead. Top 10 separates over 2 minutes and 13 seconds, and Dennis moving a little bit further clear of Eddie Dunbar, who's putting in a superb ride. But good to see the emergence of Michał Kwiatkowski now in 3rd place.
Rowan Dennis riding up Alpe de Zwift, but it looks like the Passo Gavia, doesn't it? Look at that snow left and right. And those of you who might be missing the Giro d'Italia this year, well, you've got a little image of it there on your virtual screen on the right-hand side. Snow banked up, but Dennis increasing his lead. He's taken another 2 seconds on Dunbar as we're now just over 3.5 kilometres from the top. His gradient is about to kick up again in a moment as he comes through this particular turn. Remember, you just missed the sign there. They're all numbered, aren't they?
They are indeed. The riders will get the indications of the numbers. And if you just see on the top, the right-hand side of your screen there, that little picture-in-picture, that just shows the current gradient, just moving up to 10% now. It shows where the other riders are on the road, and it shows the hairpins. It shows the little bits of road that are yet to come. And, of course, it shows the finish line again, as we see the figure of Eddie Dunbar still hovering at around 3/4 of a minute. Can't seem to make too much inroads into the lead of Rowan Dennis, who's really enjoying this. While he was in that group yesterday, Rob, he was at the front of the group putting out 5 to 6 watts a kilogram, almost in like a practice run. He certainly didn't take it easy, even on the recon.
Eddie Dunbar with that heart rate right up at 189 beats per minute. He is going like mad at the moment. Riding in his kitchen, turn 6, and there is Eddie Dunbar giving everything in Cork in the Republic of Ireland. And I'll tell you what, I've talked quite a bit to our colleague Sean Kelly about this young man. He's very excited about what the 23-year-old might be able to produce. And Matt, you can see he's going for it on his kitchen floor.
Well, he's got the advantage, Rob, if he wants to, of actually putting a piece of toast on and making a brew so he can fuel himself in his kitchen. So a wonderful little diverse tactic there from the Irishman. Still only 23 years of age. But I think the thing about this Irish rider, about Eddie Dunbar, is the fact he's so versatile as we head back. 3rd overall in the Tour of Yorkshire, 4th in the Tour of Belgium, under 23 winner of the Tour of Flanders, and can ride in the high mountains as well. He's got it all, and he performed very, very well at the Giro d'Italia last year, where he finished just outside the top 20. So he, I think, is one of the most exciting young riders within Team INEOS. I think he's got a big, big future ahead of him.
Yeah, came really close to winning a stage, didn't he, in the northwest of Italy last year, as we take another look at Cameron Worth before going back to the helicopter, hovering well above Rowan Dennis. Well, a lot of people in the last few years have talked about what this man might be able to achieve on the road. We know he's excellent against the clock. We know that he's had a few different teams. He was at BMC, wasn't he? He was at Bahrain last year. He's now at INEOS. He has the best performance set up behind him. Can he turn into a GC rider? Because at the minute, on a mountain stage, on the terrain where people doubted that he could do it, he is bossing this race against his peers.
No, he certainly is, and he's chosen the most unaerodynamic avatar to do it as well, which is typical of Rowan Dennis. He's a bit of he operates outside the normal confines of what people do, but that makes him such an exciting proposition. He's very, very unpredictable, and he has a lead now, 45 seconds. I think something's going to happen. Something catastrophic, I think, is going to have to happen now, Rob. He's going to have to blow, or Eddie Dunbar has got to kind of lift it up to kind of 450 watts all the way to the finish now. Anything can happen on this climb, and if you get your pacing strategy wrong, you could capitulate, but Dunbar staying smooth and not actually losing much more time now.
Well, there's Pavel Sivakov, Russian rider, racing in 5th place at the minute at 1 minute and 5 seconds. He's a good 25 seconds ahead of Chris Froome, who's in 6th place. Worth has been slipping and sliding since he was the early pace setter. And there is Pavel Sivakov. 424 watts being put out. Pedaling a big gear, as you can see, out of the seat onto the pedals and travelling at almost 20 kilometres per hour up this 8% gradient. Sivakov, though, has a lot of time to make up. 1 minute and 7 seconds from Dennis, who remains in the lead and increases his lead to Dunbar. 45 seconds now. And Brett Lancaster, the director sportif, I wonder what he's saying to him, Matt.
Yeah, I would imagine he's in his ear, or they've already got a WhatsApp group urging him to keep on pressing on, trying to hold that advantage, because he'll be acutely aware of the quality of the riders just behind him. With just under a minute, with only 2Ks to go, anything could still happen. But what I'd like anybody to do there out, I mean, you can see in these riders' back pockets, they look like their back pockets are actually glowing. That's where all the ride-ons end up. So if you've got access to a computer, if you're part of the Zwift community, get on the Zwift app, give these riders a ride-on, follow these riders, give them a ride-on, help them through the last couple of kilometres. It looks like there's a couple of riders closing on Dunbar now, Kwiatkowski and Cameron Worth with a late surge here.
Well, we're just under 2 kilometres to go. It would need Rowan Dennis to have a bit of a collapse if he were to be caught towards the end. Anything is still possible, but behind them might start thinking about racing for the podium. Dunbar continues to lose time at 49 seconds. 4 seconds behind him, hot on his heels, is Michał Kwiatkowski, and another of those men who I think that people have looked at him and thought, well, is he a man who can do it in the mountains and take a GC title in a 3-week race? I know that the bosses at Team INEOS have thought about this behind, and they've thought about it for a few years now. And, well, Kwiatkowski putting in a bit of a dig here. We all know that everybody's at different stages of their training, and this is what's making it much more unpredictable as well, certainly given the situation around the world at the minute. But Kwiatkowski riding from home in Poland, look at that, into 3rd place, ahead of Worth at 54 seconds, with Sivakov at 1:13 in 5th place.
Well, Kwiatkowski riding very, very well for team number 2. Team Gabba, named, of course, after their DS, Gabriel Ratch. But again, what a versatile rider Michał Kwiatkowski is. We've seen him riding so well over the last few years in the Tour de France, in the high mountains. And then his list of single-day wins is nothing short of spectacular, isn't it? I mean, of course, winner of the World Road Race in 2014, Milan-San Remo 2017, twice a winner of Strada Bianca, as well as winning the Tour of Poland and Tirreno Adriatico. He really is a versatile rider, and he's not quite caught Dunbar yet, but no doubt about Dennis stolen another 2 seconds, Rob, with only 1,300 meters to go. I think Dennis can start to smell the victory now.
Well, they'll be up there on the top with the barbecues going on this bank holiday weekend. It's Easter Sunday, and Rowan Dennis is going to be the first to take the victory spoils, the victory present, we think. 1.2 kilometres to go, 54 minutes of racing so far, and Dennis still with that 10% gradient. As we look at Kwiatkowski in third place at 52 seconds now. There is Dunbar. Across that old road, cracked away.
Yeah, some of the detailing.
You can hear, of course, the wind behind, can't you, Matt? Pardon me, but that's the Flamme Rouge. That is 1 kilometre to go now for Rowan Dennis, riding away to victory. Only a mechanical, only a big problem can stop him here now, Matt.
Indeed, the only thing I can think of is a bit of that hair getting tangled in his nostrils, just maybe kind of affecting his ability to breathe, but it doesn't look as if that is going to happen. He's romping his way to victory, has not missed a beat here, still putting out 6.4 watts a kilogram. And you can just see to the top of the screen there, the icons at the top, the Zwift statues. He's only got a couple more hairpins to go, and he will see the banner. A wonderful, dominant performance here by Dennis, but this has suited him down to the ground, almost like a solo ride, almost a TT effort for the Australian.
Well, 700 metres to go. The gradient will ease off a little bit as he goes to that finishing point. It's a 52-second lead. We can see the finish. He can see the finish. And at 29 years of age, surely now he's starting to realise, all the way from his garage in Andorra into the virtual world and to the top of Alpe d'Huez. Behind him, they're only going through that kilometre to go barrier. He's got a 500 metre lead, half a kilometre ahead, and Rowan Dennis with almost a minute lead went for it a long, long way from the finish. And after 28 victories in his career, it's going to be number 29 here. And the 29-year-old from Adelaide, the two-time world champion in the time trial, Matt Stevens, is going to pull out the goods.
Well, it was a dominant performance, wasn't it? He emerged from the original breakaway, was caught. He went, I think it was with about 6 kilometres to go, had Cameron Worth for company, didn't he, for a while, but Worth could not maintain that rhythm, couldn't stick with the tempo being set by the Australian, who's about to round that corner. Another beautiful day, same conditions we had yesterday at the top of the Alpe d'Huez. Ideal racing conditions, but nobody could touch him. Clearly a man in very, very good form. It's going to be a battle for the second position on the podium. But Rob, take us home. What a victory here for this man on our screen right now.
150 metres to go for Rowan Dennis. It's been the best stage racing team in the world. Into 6 teams, 30 riders racing up Zwift's hardest climb. A replica of Alpe d'Huez. It is Alpe d'Huez, and Rowan Dennis is about to raise his arms as he crosses the line. He's only joined Team INEOS this year. He's upset all of his teammates, but a big smile on his face. It's bragging rights for Rowan Dennis, winning the eRace Challenge for Team INEOS. Zwift is the winner. Rowan Dennis is the winner. And wow, it is a superb, superb victory.
Indeed, absolutely dominant performance then from the double world time trial champion. He said he wanted to try and win this. He was intimating that he might try and shake things up a little bit, and he did that in fine fashion. Split this bunch up, absolutely shattered the chase behind. And look at the top 10 here. Hayter in 10th position, still with a fair bit to go at 3 minutes. But Eddie Dunbar, superb ride here for second place by the young Irishman. Great performance.
Finally, the finish line in sight for Eddie Dunbar. 53 seconds of a delay, but he's just going to hang on ahead of Michał Kwiatkowski, who was threatening him for that second place. Dunbar, all the way from Corkin Island, finishes second, with Kwiatkowski, the former world champion, just about to cross behind. So there is the podium. It's Dennis the winner, Dunbar in second, Kwiatkowski behind. Quality riders beating one of the best fields you are ever likely to see. It's been a first for Zwift. It's been a first for us. We've had some brilliant racing to watch, and Cameron Verse behind, Pavel Sivakov there as well. But the podium, Dennis Dunbar-Kwiatkowski, Dave Brailsford. I'm so excited I can't finish the sentence. How did you see it?
Well, it was fantastic, wasn't it? I was absolutely gripped. I mean, it was really, really enjoyable to watch. I mean, fair play to Rowan. You can see why he's the world time trial champion. You know, Eddie, as I thought, is in pretty good shape. But I think the ride that catch my eye, to be honest, was Chris Froome, because that's a hell of a ride by a guy who's coming back from where he's coming, and that's a great indicator that he's right back on track and going to be right in the mix when we get back out there on the road.
Well, we look forward to when we'll be able to do that. But of course, a lot of people looking at the wealth of riches you've got in terms of brilliant riders who could be GC leaders just about anywhere. Rowan Dennis is a new addition to your team. Where do you see him going from here when we get back on the road?
Well, it's a good question, because I mean, Rowan was obviously targeting the Olympic Games this year, and with that changing now, it means that everybody has had to sort of sit back and recalibrate the goals and rethink. And as a team, we're going to have to rethink all of the different sections for all of the races when they set. I'm sure they will. So it's. I think for this season, I think the most important thing is that we stick together. And you know, at the end of the day, the most important race is the human race. And at this moment in time, I think it's important that, you know, events like this, great for everybody, great for the team, but you know, we'll plan for the future, and when we do get there, we'll get everybody's goals sorted out, and off we'll go again. But it's nice to be able to see a bit of racing, because it reminds everybody what we've been missing, you know.
Yeah, it's nice to smile, nice to see some entertainment. We know it's been, aside from this crisis, a really difficult time for the team, of course, with the very sad, untimely loss of Nico Portal just the other month as well.
Yeah.
And it's lovely to see what you are doing, what the team's doing to help everybody, and just remind everybody, if you will, people who maybe didn't tune in before, about this hands-on initiative, if you will.
Yeah, so INEOS are using their raw materials to make hand sanitizer and give it to hospitals, and trying to get it onto the front line, to the frontline workers, to the health workers in France, in the UK, Belgium and Germany, free of charge. So they're doing their bit, and very much so, to support in this moment of need. And it's we're distributing all of that. So we're running the distribution into the hospitals. Our logistics team is doing a brilliant job. A brilliant job of getting it all out there and getting it out there to where it's needed the most. But it's a good sign of, you know, when in these moments, it's everybody's got to muck in. We've all got to play our parts. And, you know, we're used to being the performers. You know, people come and watch us normally. But the performers at this moment in time are the health workers. And the whole world is watching and supporting them. And that's what we should be thinking about, get behind them and doing everything that we can within sports to support them in every way that we can think possible, you know.
That's absolutely brilliant, Dave. Great to see those famed organisational skills being put to brilliant use, and much more important use, of course, than the entertainment we normally see. Thanks for joining us, and of course, I really hope that we can all see you again on the road soon, and we can get back to racing, and everybody's fit and healthy as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Classics next time, I think, guys.
Let's have a little go at that. I think. What do you think, Matt? Classics next time? Cold race?
Yeah.
Let's have a word with the powers that be, eh?
I think so. I mean, the thing is, as we look at Andre Amador, the riders spread all over this today, just showing how hard a climb it is. But this, for anybody new to watching Zwift, this is Watopia. This is Zwift's own world. We've got courses on London. We've got courses on New York City. We've got the World's Course at Innsbruck. We've got the World's Course at Yorkshire, as well as Richmond, and there are new worlds on their way as well. And I'd like to see some more inter-team races on some of the classic circuits as well. I think Richmond and Yorkshire, wonderful circuits to race on. I think we'll see a little bit more of an open race. But I think, as a first off, Rob, to see a team racing like this all together, the whole squad racing together, you know, in total 4 Grand Tour winners. I believe in total that's 9 Grand Tour wins between them, including Richard Carapaz, of course, as well as Geraint Thomas and Chris Froome. I think, although we all want to get back to racing, I think racing on this platform just augments the sport. It just gives it another dimension. And great to see. There's the picture of Chris Froome echoing. I need to echo.
He's just warming down, actually. He's just warming down right now, is Chris Froome. And there's where he's finished. Look at that, 6th place. And it was good to hear from Dave Brailsford, wasn't it, about the ride of the day, he thought. Chris Froome at 2 minutes and 33. Look at that trophy, though. Top of the tree, Rowan Dennis. 58 minutes, 1 second from start to the end of that race. But look, he put a lot of time into Eddie Dunbar. 56 seconds ahead. Almost a minute behind was Michał Kwiatkowski. It was Dennis, Dunbar, Kwiatkowski on the podium. Worth just joining the team, just becoming a pro cyclist again after his time in triathlon. Brilliant 4th place finish with Sivakov, a man for the future, the 22-year-old Russian, who of course was brought up in France. Froome in 6th place, Sosa all the way from altitude in Colombia. That is another of the top rides. Ethan Hayter, the young British pro, in 8th. Castroviejo in 9th. And there, of course, was Rodriguez, the youngster, in 10th place from Spain. Almost 5 minutes from 10th all the way up to Rowan Dennis. And I think that Rowan Dennis now joins us from his garage in Andorra. Rowan, victory.
Hello.
How was it?
I'm wearing my training jersey. It was training day. No, it was pretty good. I just treated it like a 30-minute test and just went for it, really.
Were there any plans and meetings before, talking to your teammates on the day, or was it basically every man for themselves in the end?
There was supposed to be some sort of a plan, but in the end, I just thought it was just best to just send it and go for it. Why not? And worked out, I guess. But yeah, it was a good little hit out, and I saw Cam Worth there. I couldn't let a triathlete sit on my wheel for too long, so pushed a bit harder and dropped him, and then I could just sit on my TT pace from there.
Cam Worth with one of the rides of the day, I thought, as well, coming back from triathlon into professional cycling, finishing 4th there. You said you put some time into him. My, oh my, you put 2 minutes and 3 seconds into him. 56 seconds to Dunbar, a minute into Kwiatkowski. I think you've got the bragging rights the next time you can see each other.
Yeah, the problem is that I've never won up Alpe d'Huez or Alpe de Zwift, whatever you want to call it, but a lot of these guys have, so I think they've got a little bit over me still.
And Rowan, I'm intrigued. We did that group ride yesterday with you. You were putting out some pretty good power yesterday too. Was that always your kind of plan? Was it almost a warm up yesterday for you to sort of apply that plan for today?
No, yesterday was just a training day. I had 7-minute efforts with 3 minutes recovery or semi-recovery, and I just rode to my power yesterday, and just it was just a typical training day for me. So it was just a bit of a insight of see what the climb would actually be, but that's about it.
And what about your
Rowan,
thoughts on Zwift?
Sorry, Matt, go on. You finish. You carry on.
Apologies, Rob. Apologies. We're all trying to chat.
We're used to sitting in the same room, aren't we?
We are indeed. But no, I was just intrigued, Rowan, about your thoughts on not just riding within the team. We're all over the world in different parts. It's difficult times, but it must be quite special to race against your teammates, but also have so many people to ride, in the community ride as well. Everybody riding on the Zwift platform. The way that Zwift connects people is pretty special.
It is special, and obviously it's one of those times where no one is really worldwide allowed to ride with anybody. So we're lucky to have technology like this and be able to still do something, especially for not just for our sponsors, but to be able to do something for the fans as well and keep them in the loop of what we're doing as pros and what we do for training and everything.
Yeah, I can tell you that there were 15,530 socially distant riders riding together on that group ride before. So just to highlight what you said there, Rowan, that's a pretty impressive number.
Isn't that a record?
It might well be. We'll have to get the people at... I think, actually, I'm just being told, yes, from a few hundred miles away, they're telling me that, yes, that is a record, a number of people riding together. So well done.
You're welcome.
Together but apart, and we're going to leave you, Rowan Dennis, to go and warm down and maybe have a celebratory tipple or two down in Spain. What Well done, and hopefully we'll see you at one of these things again soon. And even more importantly, everybody's healthy, happy, and we see you back on the road again soon.
Thanks, mate. Cheers to that.
Cheers, mate.
So Rowan Dennis, victor ahead of Eddie Dunbar, Michał Kwiatkowski finishing in third place. Brilliant ride from Chris Froome down in sixth as well. Matt Stevens, expert alongside me. I know you'll have enjoyed this. What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. I think it just shows where the different kind of riders are. It shows Mikowski Dunbar, especially Rowan Dennis. I mean, these riders, what are we now? Midway through April. Normally they would be racing, and to let off steam in this way on such a unique platform is pretty special. It's been a first in many ways, but the racing on Zwift continues, Rob. We've got some more racing tomorrow. The Zwift Classics actually continue, where the elite women, are going to be racing around the Bologna circuit. So the time trial circuit that opened up the Giro d'Italia last year is the race landscape for tomorrow's Zwift Classics race. And you can watch that at 1900. That's British summertime, and Danny King will be commentating alongside me. So head over to Zwift's YouTube channel or Zwift's Facebook page to watch some more e-racing. But no, I just think it's been a great success, Rob. I've enjoyed commentating alongside you. It's great to see people through this adversity getting together and trying to enjoy themselves the best they can.
Well, I'll certainly be doing that tomorrow night, 7 p.m, Matt, for you and Danny Rowe. It's going to be a brilliant spectacle. And, well, wherever you've joined us throughout the world, it's been a first for all of us. It's a strange time for all of us, we know that. But I hope this has brought a bit of a smile to your face. Remember the INEOS hands-on campaign as well. Keep supporting everybody. Get riding on Zwift. Thanks from Matt Stevens, from me, Rob Hatch, and all the team involved. From Team INEOS and your winner, Rowan Dennis. It's goodbye, and we'll see you soon.